The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray. A modern view from the Republican lens. Covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.
Good afternoon. You're listening to USLA Media and the Republican Zone. I am the host, Drew Murray. I am here with my guest today, Chuck PERUTO, Republican candidate for District Attorney of the City of Philadelphia. So, Chuck, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. You came on a few weeks ago as well for the debate.
Yes.
You and Carlos Vega came. Our friend Larry Krasner did not.
Right.
He did not come. But I'm interested, and I was not able to watch it. He did actually. There's been a few events he hasn't shown up to. Actually, this was not the only one, so I shouldn't be offended. But he did show up to the Philadelphia Bar Association, and I wish I could have watched it. I couldn't watch it live, and I haven't had the opportunity. How did that go? Was it a debate? Was it more of a forum? So you didn't really go back and forth.
Naturally, I think I won.
Of course.
But there was an article written by Stu Bykowski who says I won. The headline said, "PERUTO, a clear winner."
Great. No, and I read Stu's article, and one of the things that you actually answered the questions, right?
Yeah. It wasn't really a debate because they cut your microphone off after you answered the question. So you couldn't respond to your opponent's statement. So it was, you were sort of handcuffed, and I was chomping at the bit.
It was a forum. And sometimes candidates will do that. They'll say, I'm not doing a debate. I'm not going back and forth. The only way I will be on the show is if it's a forum. And so you only ask questions. You ask those questions. There's not necessarily.
He wasn't even going to show up for that. He was pressured by the Bar Association. He hasn't shown up for 7 of these things.
Yeah, no, that's what I understand. A lot of neighborhood associations. That's kind of in my wheelhouse. I'm very involved in the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, and a lot of neighborhood associations get political. We don't, as an association, we're 501c3, but they'll have candidate debates, they'll have forums, they'll have things. I know at least one, and was it Society Hill or one he did not show up for?
I was there.
Okay, so it's frustrating that he does not show up. He's an incumbent, and in my opinion, an incumbent who is as progressive as Larry claims to be.
He's doing the right thing. I mean, Larry knows that if he comes on and debates me, I'm going to clean his clock. Mm-hmm. So he's ahead in the polls, and if I were him, I would hide under the bed or go wherever he's going.
Well, I'm glad the Philadelphia Bar came out and kind of twisted his arm.
They insisted that the public has a right to know where the candidates stand as far as law enforcement is concerned. District attorney is a very important race, and it's an extremely important race to lawyers. You have to be a lawyer to be the DA, and to turn that down, it was very distasteful.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's an important race, and obviously you're in the general. You're getting through. You're on the ballot. He has a primary challenger, and it's interesting. What I'm seeing is, in my opinion, I mean, I'm very. Anyone who knows me knows my opinion of Larry. And if I'm supposed to be nonpartisan when I'm here, I'm not, because it's the Republican Zone. But I've been very critical of our district attorney, Larry Krasner, and it seems to me that he is starting to get criticism from, in his own house.
Well, he failed to win the endorsement of the Democratic Party, and he's the incumbent Democratic district attorney.
In a city that always endorses its incumbents.
Its incumbents. But, on the other hand, he's got a couple $1 million to spend, so he could sit back and laugh, because at the last second, he could have a barrage of commercials waiting, and TV wins the day.
Yeah, no, and you're right. But, I think the one big thing in my mind, if you look at that endorsement where it could hurt him, you're right. Money, he doesn't have to worry about it. And unfortunately, and I say it's unfortunate because I think the city of Philadelphia and its citizens should be picking our next district attorney, not outside money. And
he's underestimating just how crazy I am. Because if he doesn't debate me with Jim Gardner, who's invited us, I'm going to get a truck and a bullhorn, and I'm going to be outside the district attorney's office. And other tenants in that building are going to grab him by the arm and make him debate me just so I'll shut up.
Mm-hmm. But it's going to be one thing I'm going to be very interested to see is the primary election day. The one thing about getting the endorsement from the city committee is you need boots on the street that day as much as possible. And it's hard, especially as Republicans.
Well, Drew,
we don't have the committee people.
We're in a new era now with mail-in votes. It's different.
It is different, yes.
We don't have to get ready for election day, and I don't have the ground force the Democratic machine has. So I actually think it's going to help the Republicans this time. It didn't help the president, but it's going to help the Republicans this time, because anybody who feels strongly and wants to vote can now vote very easily. You don't have to get a bus to pick you up, take you to the polls and bring you back, which we don't have the money to do. So I think it's actually going to benefit me.
No, and you might be right, because the Democrats, and this is not a critique. I'm actually, and I used to be a Democrat my entire life. I don't even know if you know that. I was a Democrat up until about 2 years ago. It is a machine in Philadelphia, and I say that in a good way. I mean, and I don't know how far down you kind of know how this all works, but I'm a ward leader, for example. A Democratic ward leader is going to have every committee person position filled. I probably have, if there's 30 divisions in my ward, I probably have 15 committee people. The Democrats will not only have 60 committee people, they'll have 60 more people who want to get into that committee person seat.
It's a well-oiled,
it's a well-oiled machine.
You have literally, I think it's anywhere, it depends on who you ask. It's 8-1.
It's 8-1. Yep.
Democrat to Republican. But I think when you have an election where public safety is on the table and people are reading every single day about citizens being slaughtered, this is anybody's game.
No, sure. And that was the question. And well, if my number one question in our debate, our forum, was what everyone in the city of Philadelphia wants to hear. Why are murders skyrocketing? 499 in 2020.
It's very simple. You have to look at the reason for the murders. The murders are skyrocketing because of the drug trade. When drug corners are becoming valuable real estate that can be bought and sold just like a business, just like a mom and pop store, that business has added value when they don't have to worry about the penalties. When you're not going to jail for 4 and 5 years getting caught for selling drugs, and you're only getting probation after probation after probation, then there's more people willing to do it, and it becomes more valuable. So there's going to be killings over it, because they don't call the Better Business Bureau when a drug corner is acting up or stealing your territory. It is a ruthless, savage, violent business, and it's worth money. And you could pin 250 of the 500 murders just on drugs and drug dealing. And
it looks like we're on pace this year to beat last year. And it wasn't a record. I think we were I think it was the second most ever in the city of Philadelphia. The most in the past 30 years.
Yes.
But I believe the second most ever in Philadelphia.
Well, we're going to blow last year away. No pun intended.
No, it does look like that, which is incredible to me. And District Attorney Krasner, and I don't know him personally, but he doesn't seem to take any responsibility for it.
Well,
and it almost seems like he doesn't care.
I have to tell you that Larry cares. Larry truly cares. He cares about defendants. He cares about their rights getting trampled. He cares about whether or not they have their 3 meals a day in prison. He cares if they have the nice, comfortable mattress. He cares about doing very little jail time for very severe crimes. He cares, and he apologizes to them to send them to jail. Larry cares. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about innocent people getting slaughtered. He is a public defender with power, and they are his words.
Well, and that's an interesting point, because yes, I call it the Larry Krasner experiment. And honestly, I didn't vote for him. I was scared of what he was going to do. I talked to Beth Grossman, who ran against him last cycle. And the one thing I'll say about Larry is he tells the truth. He told us exactly what he was going to do 4 years ago.
He started off the Bar Association debate by saying this election is about promises made and promises kept. My microphone was muted, and I wanted to say that's exactly what this election is about. Unfortunately, you kept your promise. You said you were going to empty the jails, and you did it.
He absolutely did not. He didn't lie to us. And, I will give him that at least. He was honest in what he was going to do if he became the DA. And, it's going to lead me to a question to you. Larry said, and you already alluded to it, he said, I'm a public defender with power. So, and so I'm going to ask you that question when we get back. We're going to take a quick 1 minute break, and I'm going to ask you the question. You can think about the question. It's going to be, you're a public defender. why should we have the Chuck PERUTO experiment? So you're listening to Ursula Media, the Republican Zone. I'm your host, Drew Murray. We'll be back in 1 minute.
The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray, a modern view from the Republican lens, covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.
Welcome back. You're listening to Ursula Media. I am your host, Drew Murray, and you were listening to the Republican Zone. I am here with Chuck PERUTO, candidate. I almost said district attorney, so maybe that's
okay.
Maybe I'm loading this. I almost said district attorney, candidate for the district attorney's office of the city of Philadelphia. So right before we went to break, we've all heard Larry Krasner say, I am a public defender with power. Now, I think when we look back at his 4 years, they've been 4 years or 3.5 years of failure. You're a public defender.
No.
I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. You're a criminal defense attorney.
I'm a defense attorney.
I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you for correcting me. Yes. There is a big difference.
There's a huge difference. A public defender is more ideologically shaped to make sure we protect the rights of the accused.
And honestly, Larry was a criminal.
No matter what they're accused of, no matter who they've hurt. I'm a private lawyer. If I don't like what somebody did, I don't have to defend them. I don't have to take that case. And most private criminal lawyers used to be assistant district attorneys. Their ideologies haven't changed. And let's call it what it is. We're doing it for the money. Somebody pays us, we defend them. That doesn't mean we like them. That doesn't mean we endorse what they did. And we actually try to counsel them to knock it off.
Sure. So yeah, I know, I did misspeak. I apologize. Why should we bring in another criminal defense attorney when we look at the past 3.5 years of what Larry did?
Because he was not a criminal defense attorney. He was a public defender for a long time, which shapes his ideology. And then he was a civil rights lawyer where he made it a practice to sue the police, made a living from it. He made a good living from it. He would actually lose the criminal case and then sue because of the way they arrested him. And the city, of course, run by more Democrats, would pay his guys, $1 million, $500,000 because, they want to apologize too. Like when he discovers these people who had defense lawyers, a jury says they're guilty, a judge says they're guilty, appellate judges say they're guilty, the Supreme Court says they're guilty. But Larry, in his infinite wisdom, has discovered that they're innocent. So he's going to let them out. And then the city pays him $10 million. Not $1 million, not $100,000 to get them started. $10 million taxpayer dollars. This has got to stop, and it's why I'm in the race.
Gotcha. So another question here, and as I said, I used to be a Democrat, so I'm probably considered pretty liberal. In fact, people call me a rhino, if you've ever heard that expression. Yep. When I was a Democrat, I was a dino. Now I'm a rhino. So I say that it means I think for myself. And I
have a lot of Democratic philosophies. I believe in a lot of things the Democratic platform stands for, but not law and order. Not law and order. You got to be crazy.
Now, what about, I believe in criminal justice reform. I do think we have problems in the system.
Sure we do.
But Larry Krasner has brought it to a new level. And one thing that I always wrestle with is bail. Because you look at, should someone be sitting in jail who is presumed innocent? Should that person sit in jail just because that person has does not have the financial
The answer is yes and no. It depends.
Sure.
Are they a danger to the community? And you demonstrate that through their past. Is this his fifth arrest? And every time he gets out, he does it again. I don't care how much money he has. I don't want him getting out. So in that particular sense, bail reform is needed because you're either detained or not detained if we adopt the Jersey rules as promulgated. We need a system where public safety is number one. We don't want people sitting in jail because they can't afford it. But then again, we're not looking at protecting the rights of poor. We're looking at to protect the rights of poor criminals. There's a difference. We're not slapping them around because they're poor. We're slapping them around because they're poor criminals. That's a difference. That's a difference. Now, when you go to the corner store and you steal a loaf of bread to feed your family, should that person have to put up $1? No, because they don't have $1.
Sure.
They don't have $1. So in some ways, reform is needed. But when you want to have a gun on our streets, no, I don't want you getting out at all. I want you to start doing your time.
And that begs the question.
The second you made the bad decision to carry it.
Should we just get rid of cash bail completely? It's you're remanded or you're not remanded. Money does, and I'm asking, and I am not an attorney, but from an outsider, an amateur, I'll say.
Just because
I think maybe we should just get rid of it.
Just because Larry Krasner is for eliminating cash bail doesn't mean I'm going to be against it. There are several issues where we're on the same page, and I do think we have to eliminate cash bail. The problem is human beings, i.e. politics, gets involved on the decision of who stays in and who gets out. And it's an imperfect system. There's not going to be a perfect system because we still have humans making those decisions. And that's why you have to have layers of appeals so that these things could be reviewed.
Sure. Sometimes there isn't a perfect answer. And my gut says get rid of cash bail. But what that means, and when I say that, that doesn't mean I want everyone out. And I think people do think that. Well, if you eliminate cash bail, everyone is out.
It's a misnomer. People don't understand that does not mean everybody's being released. That means, regardless of how much money you have, you can't get out if you're detained. If you're a repeat rapist, there's no possibility. I mean, you look at the facts of the case, and you see the MO, modus operandi. It's very similar to a crime where he already served his 8 years for. And it's eerily similar. Yes, he is presumed to be innocent. And yes, he may be acquitted at trial. But he's going to sit his butt in jail until he gets that trial because I am the chief law enforcement officer of the county of Philadelphia. And I'm going to make those decisions. He's not getting out because it's public safety.
Well, could you not have policy then? How do you take the human factor out of the human decision making? Couldn't you say, and again, I'm an amateur, I'm not an attorney. Couldn't you say if this is, if it's a rape, for example, you're not going anywhere no matter what. If it's first or second degree murder, you're not going anywhere no matter what. This is whether it's at what level it's done at, or a repeat offender. If this is your third offense,
you have to have guidelines that must be followed, but you have to have more guidelines. You have to have more ingredients. You have to look at each case on a case-by-case basis, and when you're the DA or the assigned assistant DA, and look at it. Is there a likelihood he's going to be acquitted? A likelihood he's going to be convicted? That's a factor. Because you don't want somebody sitting in jail when there's a likelihood he's going to be acquitted. That's why people want criminal justice reform. You can't be Attila the Hun as the district attorney and just say, no, everybody's going to jail. If they're accused of something, they did it. No, I firmly believe in the right that you're innocent until proven guilty. What I don't believe in is letting you out when the facts are eerily similar. They're overwhelming. His DNA is inside of her. And there's no claim of consent. He's saying that he was somewhere else. These cases are not bailable. We have to protect these people who've been raped. We have to protect these people who've been shot, protect these people who've been kidnapped by rival drug dealers. I'm their voice. I speak for them. As a private lawyer, I spoke for the accused. Now I want to speak, and I'm asking for people to vote for me so I can be their lawyer. The problem with Larry is he never made the switch. He's still representing defendants.
No, he absolutely is. He doesn't think it's his job to speak, and you were kind of alluding to this, for victims. And that's what the chief prosecutor of the city of Philadelphia.
He doesn't even call victims back. I'm a private lawyer, private law firm. People will make appointments. They'll come in to see me, and they want to pay me, hire me. Chuck, could you be the conduit between me and the DA's office? Because they don't call me back. I don't know what's going on. Like, I just got a subpoena in the mail, regular mail, that I have to be in court Wednesday, but I don't even know what it's for. Could you find out for me? Oh, that's a disgrace. That's a disgrace. That assistant DA is not being raised properly. The first thing you do is have contact with your client. Your client's the victim as the DA. Call them. Fill them in. Let them, hey, we don't want to inconvenience you because the defense attorney might play games. When he sees you're there, he's going to say, I can't be ready, right? I have to go somewhere else, and I can't try the case and postpone. No, I'm going to put you on call. Give me your word that if I call you in, you're going to be there in an hour. Otherwise, your case is going to be dismissed. And let them know how dangerous that is for the community. But if you could be there in an hour, sit by your phone, carry your phone with you, go about your business. I'll call you in an hour regardless of which way so you can relax for the rest of the day. Instead of having witnesses come to court, and then finally they get sick of coming to court and the defendant goes free because the victim is sick of coming to court and there's nobody to testify against them.
And over, Larry has failed to notify victims of plea deals. And make no mistake about it, he had a private practice. He's efficient. When you look at government, sometimes things go slower in government. But Larry had a private practice for years. He's efficient. And the fact that numerous times that there were plea deals that Larry and his office were legally obligated to notify victims of plea deals, he consistently has not done it.
Well, that's the problem. They're not legally obligated. That's why we need voters. A prosecutor's not appointed, they're elected. Mm-hmm. The voters are going to say, Larry, we're either going to give you a raise or we're going to fire you. And one of the things we're going to base that on is how you treated us as victims. Bing, no, we're going to vote for the other guy, hopefully me. Vote for the other guy because you stunk. You didn't notify us. You didn't care about us. You still care about the poor little defendant.
No, and it's a huge problem. I do want to get to the actual race, and I've run a race. I've run a couple, and I've run as a Republican. I know how hard it is. You already said it. It's 8-1, mm-hmm. Democrat to Republican ratio. You're a Republican, so whomever gets past the primary, you're looking at the general. You could get every single Republican vote in the city of Philadelphia, every registered Republican, 130,000 of them, and you could still lose. So, what do you say? You need Democrats. You have to appeal to Democrats.
If Larry Krasner is my opponent in the general election after doing favors for Democratic ward leaders for 40 years, they might not publicly come out for me, but privately, where everything is done, get all your committee mm-hmm. people together. We're pulling for Chuck. He couldn't even get the endorsement of his own party. His own party did not give him an endorsement. What's that tell you? That's voted on by the ward leaders.
No, absolutely.
Those ward leaders are going to come out strong for me. And I'm telling you right now, if Larry Krasner is the Democratic nominee, I'm going to be the next DA, hands down. I'm not in this to play games. I'm in this to win this, and I'm going to win it.
And how are you going to appeal to those Democratic voters? Great. You need the ward leaders. You need those committee people. But what do you say to? You're not going to get the ultra progressive.
Well, the first thing
you're not going to get the Larry Krasner lovers. You're not
going
to get a group like Reclaim to come endorse you. But how do you appeal to, honestly, in a way, someone like me who is I'm still a moderate. I say I left the Democratic. Well, I say the party left me. Mm-hmm. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. It wasn't the party that I registered for 30, 25 years ago. To me, the Democratic Party is different, but there are still a lot of those people in the middle, whether it's middle right.
My message is simple. Progressives might be good in some respects, but not when it comes to public safety. How do we know that? Look at the past 3.5 years. That's what you got. Do you want to get shot? Is it better to know where your son, who's addicted to drugs, is it better to know that he's in custody? Or not know where he is, not know if he's dead or alive, literally. We got to help drug-dependent people, and sometimes it's tough love. It's forced rehabilitation. Forced rehabilitation, it's not up to them to decide not to use drugs. It's going to be harder to get drugs in jail, not impossible, which is another failure of the Krasner administration in not using the grand jury to subpoena prison guards. Put them under oath. Who's bringing the drugs in? When you say, I don't know, and you know, and you're lying, then you're going to be in trouble. So it's going to be up to the guards to rat out those drug guards that are bringing them in and putting the innocent guards in danger. Because when these people smoke this PCP in the jail and they get these crazy muscles and they lose their mind, then the guards are in jail, in jeopardy. So we have to get to the bottom of that. And let me tell you, one of the biggest epidemics we have right now is drugs in the jail, and that is a systematic failure of Larry Krasner.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to USLA Media and the Republican Zone. We'll be back in a minute.
The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray, a modern view from the Republican lens, covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.
Welcome back. You're listening to Usula Media and the Republican Zone. I'm Drew Murray, and I'm here with candidate for district attorney, Chuck PERUTO. So we're talking about prison guards. So why do you think Larry Krasner doesn't subpoena the security, the prison guards?
He hasn't utilized the grand jury for what it's supposed to be used for. Grand jury puts people under oath in front of the grand jury. They put them under oath and they ask them questions. Those questions could come back and used against them to put them in jail for perjury. And what you want to do is make sure that we're getting the innocent, law-abiding prison guards to literally rat. I'm going to call it what it is because Larry says, oh, you want to make them a rat. Well, that's what you do. That's what a witness is. Okay? You're coming forth and you're giving testimony. So by its nature, yes, they're going to hurt other prison guards. Those prison guards should be hurt. They're endangering everyone. Number one, overdoses. What do you think? You have a doctor in a cell next to you? You know what it's going to be like to get a doctor in a prison to help somebody? Number two, the other guards when they become crazy violent. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody on PCP, angel dust. It is a unique drug, or methamphetamine, when it gives you crazy strength and crazy energy. These guards are in danger. And you cannot have drugs getting into the jail. Now, you tell me, when people are searched and searched and searched to go in and visit a loved one, and the guards are not searched, how are the drugs getting into the jail? Now, I'm not going to win any votes from prison guards by saying this, but I'm sorry, it's got to be said. There's a lot of people I'm going to piss off when I'm running. But that's how the job gets done, unless you want to just be a politician and go for votes. Because if you want to be serious about cleaning up the jails, and you have to be, because you've got to get these people dried out from the drugs. You got to get that forced detox. And then you could talk to them, because you cannot talk to a drug addicted person. When they're on opiates, they're going to yes you to death. Did you ever talk to an addicted person and they said they were addicted? No, they all have it under control. Every one of them has it under control. They just dabble. They dabble at 9 o'clock in the morning, at noon, at 3 o'clock, at 6 o'clock. They dabble. And then they babble. And then they lie. We have to force them to clean it up. Otherwise, it's going to be a turnstile, a vicious circle.
Sure. Now, you mentioned not making any friends. And I think that's important, because I think the one group that Larry Krasner should be working with, and he's not, and in fact, they dislike him, is our police force,
right.
Is the FOP. Larry is almost made, look, it's not like he's supposed to be buddy-buddy with them. And if a police officer does something wrong, he's there to prosecute them. But there is no relationship between Larry Krasner and the FOP and our police force. Where do you see your relationship with the Philadelphia police?
Very clearly.
As a district attorney.
Very clearly. People and voters have to understand, if a cop shoots somebody wrongfully, without reason, just shoots them, clubs them, beats them, they're going to be prosecuted. They're not going to get a pass from me just because I'm pro-police. That's got to be made clear. And it is clear. But at the same time, there's got to be a partnership, a real partnership with my office and the police force. You want to kill yourself investigating these drug corners and getting to the bottom of who's running it, and then you bring it to the DA, and the DA says, I don't want it. I'm not going to prosecute it. That's ridiculous. You're supposed to be partners. I want to reach out to them and make sure they know I'm your partner. And the first thing you have to do, and I'm not talking about when you get sworn in, the day after the election, there's 2 things I need to do. Call for a major meeting with all police captains, because the captains are the highest rank with their ears to the ground. They know what's going on in their community. Sit down and talk to them and learn. Educate yourself. I have experience with this, doing this for 41 years, so I have a head start on the next guy doing nothing but criminal law. So it's not a minus, it's a plus for me. I want to meet with these police captains, and I want to meet with the Board of Judges. They're my two pet peeves that he's never done. Board of Judges, I want to ask them, you serious? You want to be part of this cleanup of the drugs, this violence, this death rate? If you want to help me and join my force, give me 6 judges of my choosing to hear nothing but gun and gun use cases, homicides, shootings on the street, gun possession. Trust me, defense lawyers are not going to be for this whatsoever. So to say I'm still a defense lawyer, let's put that on a shelf for a minute, because I get my 6 the first year. Shootings are going to get cut in half. You're going to have prison phone calls. You know, we listen in on them and they get intercepted. Hey, tell Tom to leave the gun home. This DA is nuts. He's out of his mind. He wants to give you 2 years just for having it on you. 10 years for using it. So when I want the word to get around, and I want to use part of our budget to advertise it to the public so there's no excuse, walk out of your house with that gun. You better think twice about it. Because if you don't have the gun when you think you're in danger, then there's a lot less likelihood that somebody's going to get shot. And tough problems take tough measures, and I'm going to do that. So that's the first thing I want to do, is meet with the Board of Judges to get my 6. The second thing is to meet with the captains. And when I say second, I mean the day after. To meet with the captains, to let them know they have a friend in the DA's office. It's a new day. The third day, I'm meeting with the feds. I want to meet with the current United States Attorney for the Eastern District and meet with them and have a spirit of cooperation. Not this banter on TV. You stink. No, you stink. No, you stink. No, you stink. What does that solve? 911 has told us law enforcement has to share information with the FBI and the DEA and the police force and the ATF. We got to share full information. We got to be partners, not enemies. And this, I just can't understand how we could have a district attorney who wants to give the finger to all law enforcement.
No, we've all seen the video when he won. Everyone was chanting, "Bleep the police." Mm-hmm. So, you know, he's made it clearly to all of us that he wants no relationship with the police. And look, there's got to be a line.
It's a horrible thing to whistle on somebody, but when he comes out of his house and he gets jumped and he gets beaten within an inch of his life, who's he going to call? The Progressive Party or the police? It's a shame. I don't want that to happen to anybody, but might wake him up.
Sure. No, and many of the people who want to defund the police are often the first people to call the police when they have an issue. And it's a problem. Now, it's interesting that you said you were going to talk to the feds. And I actually wasn't even, when you're preparing an interview, I kind of thought, I know what I want to talk about with Chuck as I'm going through. But you said something that jumped out at me. And this was definitely an issue when I was on the campaign trail. And this is definitely not a DA's decision. It's the mayor's decision. But what is your thought about sanctuary cities? And again, this is only one person makes this decision. It's not even council. It's the mayor. What is your thought on the fact that we are a sanctuary city?
This mayor stinks. And when it comes to law enforcement, he doesn't know the first thing about it. I don't have a problem with the police leaving illegal aliens alone. We have too many other fish to fry. We have too many priorities. However, when an illegal alien under my watch commits one of the big 5, rape, robbery, murder, burglary, or arson, goodbye. After I'm done dealing with you, because you're going to serve your sentence first. Then we're going to call ICE and we're going to deport you. Right now, a police officer could lose his job for calling ICE under the mayor's directive. That is obstruction of justice. And since I'm the chief law enforcement officer in the county, anybody who obstructs justice is going to be charged, and that includes the mayor.
And it's interesting, and most people don't even understand what a sanctuary city means. I think most people believe that it means that, the city's just not going to go around and try to arrest people because they think they're an illegal alien. The only way the quote-unquote sanctuary city or process even begins, the FBI requesting for you to detain someone, is if that person is already arrested.
Yes.
They're already arrested. They're in jail, and no, you're innocent until proven guilty, whether you're here illegally or you're not, or if you're a citizen. But the bottom line is you were arrested and you're put into the system. Basically, there's a red flag that goes up because there's a person in there, possibly just with the same name. So there are issues with our system, and human decisions, as you said before, are made. But when the detainer request is made, it's made because that person is in the custody of the police. So
I'm going to be real liberal about this. I've had an epiphany. I'm going to be real liberal. Here's how liberal I'm going to get. I'm only going to request a detainer when you commit one of the big five. Not when you steal from the corner store, not when you destroy some property. You're going to have to suck that up. I'm not approving of those things, but when you commit one of the big five, there is no reason on God's green earth why that person should not be detained and then deported when I'm done with you.
Sure. And a lot of people say, and this is off topic, but people say, oh, you're for or against, or wherever you sit on sanctuary city. Well, if you're opposed to sanctuary cities, you're against immigration. I tell people all the time, I'm 100% for.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for immigration.
Exactly. Yeah, you're an Italian American. I'm an Irish American.
Well, I'm not going to hold it against you.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I feel like we were kind of like the only difference between an Italian mom and an Irish mom. An Irish Catholic, you're Catholic as well, is Italian moms cook a little better. As much as I love my mother, God rest her soul, she was not the best cook in the world. So I went to the prep, and all my Italian South Philly buddies, I loved going to their house.
Now you're making me jealous if you went to the prep.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't get in.
You didn't get in? Well,
I did better in law school than I did in high school.
Well, that's what's most important, right? When you get to, they say you get to college, and if you don't do well in college, but you're going to graduate, it's always your last degree. That's what is most important. No one cares that you didn't go to the prep, except all of us who did go to the prep and who have the audacity to say they went to a high school called the prep. Everyone who hears that's like the prep. The prep.
My brother went. He reminds me.
Yeah, People say, "What? Well, did you go to Malvern Prep?" I'm like, no, I went to the prep. There's only
I
one.
went to Devon Prep, and trust me, I'm glad I'm still alive.
You went to Devon Prep all the way from?
No, I didn't go all the way through. I quit after sophomore year.
Because it was a long commute, right?
It was a long commute. It was ridiculous. Never mind. I don't want to really get into it.
That is that is a long commute. So I want to keep on the subject. And again, this is not necessarily even within the DA's kind of purview. It is, but sanctuary city. It's about not cooperating with the feds. And in many ways, it's breaking the law. There's another thing in Philadelphia that many are trying to get. These are safe injection sites, and in my opinion, it's breaking the law, and it's
safe injection site is an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron in itself. Safe injection site. How could an ejection site be safe? But putting aside the oxymoron that was invented by morons who are currently in power. This is the worst idea I have ever seen. And when Ed Rendell signed off on it, I started to say, he's getting soft in the head. Because when he was DA, and all of the administrations I practiced law against, he was the toughest.
Yeah, he would never do that.
He's getting soft in the head because let me tell you something. You have all of these and it's mostly opiates, drug-addicted people in the same area, in the same room, in the same facility. Hey, Joe, where'd you get your drugs? I got them from Tom. Oh, how much? $4. Any good? Monroe, you try it. What?
Go even worse. What? Not only are they going to talk about it, but if you have one safe injection site, where do you think those dealers are going to go? They're going to go to where their customers are, and where their customers going to be. They're going to be
at people.
The safe.
They're business
going to
people.
Look, drug dealers. They're doing illegal activity, but they're not dumb. Many of them. I mean, some of them maybe, but they're
not dumb.
They know what they're doing. It's a lucrative business. Unfortunately, here in the city of Philadelphia, right around the corner from here, Kensington. I urge everyone running for office, and I'll say this to you, and you got to be careful. Walk about a mile in Kensington, in the street, and you got to be careful because it is scary. I went to school at St. Joe's Prep at 17th and Girard in the 1980s, and it was a tough neighborhood. So I don't get scared often. When I did that walk when I was running for state rep, I walked, and we were with about 5 people and actually a camera crew. I was scared. I mean, it was scary. I mean, you had drug dealers who would come up right next to you and walk with you. You saw the gun hanging out of their pocket. They're wondering, who is this guy? Because I was dressed like I am now. I was clearly, there for a different purpose. So I'll ask you, whether you do it now or in a few months, you never know how bad it is until you walk that mile, because it's scary. You feel like you're literally in a different
There's really,
country.
after doing this 41 years, there's really no section in the city that I'm not familiar with. And obviously, Kensington, it ranks right up there. I mean, it's pretty bad.
It is scary. So we're going to take one more quick break. You're listening to Usula Media and the Republican Zone. We'll be back in a minute.
The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray, a modern view from the Republican lens, covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Usula Media and the Republican Zone. I am here with District Attorney candidate Chuck PERUTO, who is running under the Republican ticket. Unlike, so when did, I never asked you this. When did you are you like brand new to the party? Like
I
a
am
few months
brand new.
ago?
I was a Democrat all my life, and I switched because of Larry Krasner. There's a couple of issues that the Republicans stand for that I've always been behind. Law and order is one of them. There are several issues that the Democrats stand for that I'm behind. That doesn't mean I can't vote for a Democrat when I'm a Republican, but I got to tell you, when it comes to law and order, I don't know how anybody, I don't know how Larry Krasner's wife could pull the lever for him as district attorney, because she's seen firsthand what he's done. And I just say that facetiously. I don't know who she's going to vote for. But honestly, when it comes to law and order, he has failed us. And that's the only issue with the DA's race. Nobody cares about my views on abortion. Nobody cares about my views on, import taxes. It's about law and order. It's about bullets. It's about public safety. It's one issue. You're either in agreement with what happened in the last 3.5 years, or you realize he has dropped the ball. And I think people we're underestimating him. I don't care if it's 8-1, 10-1, Democrat to Republican. I'm going to beat them badly.
Sure. And what's interesting, that law and order is almost like the enemy now of the party, because that's the Democratic Party. That's not what it used to be.
No.
I mean, the FOP nationally, definitely locally, always endorses Democrats. It's because it's a union, and Democrats and unions are associated together. Although I think that's going to be changing. And the reason you're starting to see this switch. I was endorsed as state rep by the FOP. I think the reason you're seeing this is because it's not the same party, and maybe you'd still be a Democrat if it was for Larry Krasner. I wouldn't be. I switched 2 years ago, and I always tell people I didn't leave the Democratic Party. They left me. It is not the same
Dwight
party.
Eisenhower once said something that's very, very true. There's the Republican Party, and a Democrat is anyone who's not a Republican. So it's not just one party. It's a mishmash of several different groups, and that's fine. The party of inclusion is a good thing. Not when it comes to law and order. I don't want to keep saying it.
No, and that's an interesting thing too. One of the reasons the straw that broke the camel's back, and it was a big. I am actually very pro-life. Was when the Democratic Party said to me, "We don't want you if you're pro-life." And to me, it was important to me, but it was more like, if we don't agree with every single thing that is on the Democrat Party platform, then we don't want you. It isn't. They don't want people to think. They really just want you. This is what you have to believe. I don't believe everything on the Republican Party platform, and I that's a badge of honor in my opinion, because I think I'm an intelligent person. I'm a Jesuit trained person. I think for myself. The Democrat Party does not want you to think for yourself. They want this. This is what you have to believe. And there are friends of mine, very good friends of mine, who I look in different issues, And all of a sudden, they've changed their stance and their belief on an issue because the Democrats changed a stance or a belief on an issue.
That's very true.
And these are smart people. And I'm like, but smart people doesn't mean you're a strong-willed person. It doesn't mean you can't be influenced. And that's why I left the party. It was because I'm pro-life, but it was more because I couldn't. They wouldn't allow me to think for myself.
I think that might be the Democratic leadership, but most
you're right. No,
Democrats,
you're right.
I think, are independent thinkers, and I don't think they're going to think twice about booting Larry Krasner out. If Vega doesn't beat him, which he should, I'm going to beat him. And I'm going to hit him where it hurts. And that's demonstrating everything he's done has failed us. I don't have to be a superstar. I'm not a superstar. I don't have the answer to every problem we have. But I'm going to do a lot better than Larry Krasner.
Sure. And it's tough. And it's really tough during a pandemic. I ran a race during a pandemic because one of the things you need is money. Money, money, money. How much money have you raised? How many endorsements do you have? And it's really, it's hard to raise money as a Republican anyway in the city of Philadelphia. But you're going against a person who is getting money. Big time money. How do you fight against all that money?
He'll raise a couple $1 million.
And that's a huge amount of money for a
I could beat him with 25% of that.
Okay.
It's going to take $500,000. I know that. And it's a necessary evil. But I got a package. One thing, I just want to hire an IT guy to put together a string of interviews he's done on different policies and put them together and let the voters see for himself where he said I'm a public defender with power and things like that, so they can see what did he think he was running for a public defender or district attorney? I think he got he might be colorblind
I think he's still a public defender in his own opinion. He is a public defender in his own opinion.
He is too liberal to be the chief law enforcement officer in the city of Philadelphia.
Well, he's not the chief prosecutor because he doesn't, in my opinion, he doesn't.
Unfortunately, he is the chief prosecutor, and when you're the chief prosecutor with his views, you don't have prosecutions, and that's why we're suffering.
So, what else are you doing on the campaign trail? This is if you've never ran a campaign during a pandemic. And that's the first question. Have you ever run a campaign before? Is this your first?
This is my
so
first.
You're not a career politician.
Listen, this is.
And I think that's a good thing, by the way.
This is tough business. This might be my last race because just what people are worried about and what people think about is just beyond me. They really believe that the jail is full of innocent people. The jail's not full of innocent people. Is it a foolproof system? Are there some innocent people in jail? Yes. But just not 15%.
No. And the one thing I will give Larry for, he's gotten a few people out of jail who were not supposed to be who were innocent.
But I don't know if that's those cases. I'm going to expose some of those cases where these people did do it.
They did.
And he let them out. I mean, he overruled the province of the jury, which is sacrosanct in our business.
And what does that mean?
That means
for us,
if a jury said it, and then the appellate courts passed on it, and they reviewed it and reviewed it and reviewed it, and then his team, appointed by him, says the guy not only there might be a reasonable doubt of guilt, which everybody else previously said no, there's not a reasonable doubt. He's going so far and saying they're innocent. Well, innocent is a whole lot different than not guilty.
Yes.
And for him to say they're innocent and give them $10 million is a travesty. And I'm going to pick one, and we're researching it right now, and that's why you need manpower and money. On two of those cases where they weren't innocent, and there's so many other cases he could have chose, but politics. You have the black clergy. They're strong in their communities. They represent the good in people. They're a tight community, and they listen to them. The problem is some of the black clergy just want to be powerful, and they want their constituents to know, you come to me, I'll get it done. I have an in with Krasner now. That becoming more powerful and becoming more prominent in the neighborhood comes at a cost, because he could boast that he has his ear. He has Larry Krasner's ear, but is that a good thing? Because Larry Krasner he definitely needs the black clergy to get elected. So Larry Krasner is not going to say no. The problem with that is the people in his community are coming to him saying, you got to get this person out, you got to get that person out. They're innocent. They were always innocent. Everybody recanted. All right, they recanted their story after 30 years. They recanted their story. They said somebody else did it.
And is it really the prosecutor's job to get people out of jail. If he gets an innocent person out of jail, I think that's good. But is it really his job to begin with? Should he be
the public defender's office is there for these things. They got to do the work. They got to interview these witnesses. They got to uncover a wrongful conviction, and then you bring it to a DA. And if there is something there, any prosecutor doesn't want to see. There's no prosecutor wants to see an innocent man in jail. Sure. It's a horrible thing. That's a horrible thing. It's not lost on me just because I'm against all these people he's let out. But let me tell you, there's not the numbers that he thinks are innocent in that jail.
No, and I would agree with you. Well, we're coming to the end. So, Chuck, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to wish you luck in your race. Well, the good thing about the primary is you don't need luck. If you lose the primary, you're in big trouble. So you're on to the general, and that's a good feeling. And I'm going to talk to you, but we're going to have you come back before the general. But good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to Usula Media and the Republican Zone.
The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray, a modern view from the Republican lens, covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.